Alright guys, we've got it. The Throwback Track DLC is here. The first two tracks in that pack would be from MX vs. ATV Alive, Catapult Canyon and Grandview. We also have an Easter egg track, kind of, and not kind of, it is, and a different time of day. A bunch of stuff, a bunch of really cool stuff. Now, these tracks will be releasing every other week for the next 5 weeks, so these two tracks, then we have Savannah and Capital City, and then the 3 Reflex tracks, which I can't wait for. Gonna be freaking awesome. So, a bunch of stuff to cover. No more talking. Let's just get into the video and start this thing off. Before we jump into the tracks, I do want to show you we have a different time of day. We have a nighttime riding, which is pretty sweet. I didn't know this was going to be with this DLC, but it is. So, pretty cool. We do test it out at the very end, but let's jump into the tracks now. Here we have it, the first two throwback tracks to the Throwback Track DLC. It should be 7 tracks. I was trying to say it in the introduction, but I ran out of time. These first two would be from MX vs. ATV Alive. We have Catapult Canyon and Grandview. Now, it has a free ride biome you can go into. Also, we do have an Easter egg. I'm kind of showing you it here. Let me know in the comments if you could guess it before we check it out, what the Easter egg might be if you're familiar with MX vs. ATV Alive. But we have the 2 tracks are in the same biome for free ride, but then you can individually race or time attack those tracks. We also have nighttime, which we talked about. Pretty sweet. It looks fantastic. And it's not too dark. It's just about right where you can still play in, full moon, tons of stars. Looks fantastic. And I kind of wanted to show it off before we get into the actual gameplay. It looks really good, and like I said, that will be showing up at the very end. And here we are, the first track in the 7-track Throwback Track DLC. This is Catapult Canyon from MX vs. ATV Alive, and then Grandview. But we also have an Easter egg and nighttime riding, which is really cool. We'll check it out at the very end. But first up, Catapult Canyon. Now, MX vs. ATV Alive, that was an MX vs. ATV I didn't play as much. I mean, we have some on the channel, but I didn't play it as much, so I wasn't as good at that game. I'm not quite as familiar with that game, but I did play Catapult Canyon, Grandview, the 2 Supercross tracks as a DLC, and one more track, but I'm not going to mention it yet. I did play those quite a bit, so it's kind of funny, it's kind of cool for me at least, that 2 of the tracks I played the most in Alive and Supercross Encore, because they did bring these tracks into Supercross Encore. 2 of these tracks, or these 2 tracks, were some of my most played from those 2 games, right? So, in my opinion, they did a fantastic job. The track is Catapult Canyon. Now, they did scale it to and build it, design it to work for MX vs. ATV Legends. So, some things might be a little bit different because it is a remake, right? It is a remake completely from the ground up, new, and they have to make it work for the way MX vs. ATV Legends plays versus the way Alive or even Supercross Encore played. And in my opinion, they did a fantastic job. There's so many things that I remember about these 2 tracks, specifically Catapult Canyon here, because this is the track we're checking out right now. By the way, we have 2 laps here to show you from each track before we check out some of the other stuff, but so well done. I mean, it has the character and the features from the original track. I remember this jump coming up, this huge floater down. I mean, that feels exactly the same as it did in Alive, even if it's scaled a bit different. They captured that feeling, right? And then everybody remembers this kind of, this rhythm section here. You can quad. You might be able to 5 in, actually, and triple out. I'm not really sure. I mean, that was the best I could do. I actually kind of had a struggle here. The track isn't difficult, but I wanted to get halfway decent laps. Not super fast, but decent, right? Try to do justice to how good they made this. They did a fantastic job. Catapult Canyon is freaking amazing. Now we switch over to 2 laps from Grandview, and this track is amazing as well. They did it so good. They did it justice, in my opinion. Again, it's scaled a bit different, but it feels like Grandview. Now, both these tracks do share a biome, so you can free ride it if you go to the free ride of Grandview. Catapult Canyon is in there as well, plus the Easter egg. And, you know, I want to switch over. That jump feels a bit extended, more so than it was in Alive, but again, because of the scaling, all this feels the same. It all feels exactly the same. You can jump all the way over that. I believe we get it for you at the very end when we show you some nighttime riding, but really, really great job. And then this big kind of hill has 2 different lines you can take, and then we take the right side here. All of it feels the way it felt in Alive. They did such a good job, and then they kind of extended that landing down the triple, so if you over jump, because you could kind of do the same in Alive and for sure Supercross Encore. But mostly I'm talking about MX versus ATV Alive because I feel like, you know, those were the original tracks, and that's kind of how we want to, that's how they're showing it, that's where they're coming from. And so yeah, these aren't the Supercross Encore tracks, these are the MX versus ATV Alive tracks, if you didn't know. But yeah, they did a great job on it. They did a fantastic job. They even the small spots where they had to scale it different and make it a tiny bit different, it just works better for, you know, like quality of life almost for the way the game plays. And on this lap, we do take the alternate line, the left side, I believe, and it was just that way in Alive too. You know, you had 2 different ways you could jump off of that to jump over and float over the top of that big mound, and then we take the left side, over jump a bit, but the landing's kind of extended, and then we way over jump the triple. But since the landing is built that way, it works fine. It works really, really good. And this finish line double felt a tiny bit bigger, but maybe it's just because, you know, just to scale it better for MX versus ATV Legends. Now, we are checking out the Easter egg. Were you able to figure out what the Easter egg was from some of those camera shots that we did at the very beginning? This is, if you haven't, I'll give you a second. This is not a raceable track, I don't believe, but it is in free ride. So this would be the Easter egg and one of the reasons to go free ride. Again, both the main tracks, Catapult Canyon and Grandview, can be found in the free ride of Grandview. There is no free ride for Catapult Canyon because it's in here. But this is the Easter egg. This is, I believe it's called Piston Valley. Now, I do remember this track, and they did a great job. It is so cool. The big quad that you barely get going up the hill. I think in Alive it was a bit higher, like you jumped a bit higher, but mostly the same. To jump back down the hill was the same. That weird double is exactly the same. You don't get any lift, and it's really easy. I kept jumping off the track going straight instead of kind of curving to the right. It's exactly the same. It's so good. They did such a great job. I appreciate this, MX vs. ATV. You're so cool. This is so awesome that they basically gave us a free extra track in these 2 tracks from the Throwback Track DLC. I mean, it basically is an extra track. We can't race it. It would be so cool if we could race it, but then it would have been 3 tracks instead of 2, right? It's just kind of a fun Easter egg that you can find in free ride. So go free ride, explore. Here we have the nighttime riding. This is so cool. Nighttime and snow in video games is something I love. I loved the Division 1 because of the setting in New York City with, I mean, you had time of day and then you had snow. I don't know why I like snow and nighttime in video games, but I do. It's just something I really like. And now MX vs. ATV has the nighttime in the video game, and in my opinion, they did a great job. Here we actually get all the way over it, which is kind of cool. I kept missing my preload. I haven't played the game in a while, so we were struggling a tiny bit, and I wanted to show a lap around each track, right? Each track again at nighttime, and the setting is great. I mean, the setting is gorgeous. The night, the sky with all the stars. We have a full moon. They have a little bit of lighting around the track, but for the most part, it's just the lighting from the moon. So it is kind of dark, and they could have made it darker, obviously, to make it more realistic, but that would have taken away from the fun. I want to be able to see what I'm doing still, but feel like it's nighttime, right? And I feel like they captured that extremely well with this time of day mode. Freaking cool. We knew we were kind of getting it because they teased it. I just didn't know it was going to be coming with the first 2 throwback tracks. So really great job, MX vs. ATV. Thank you for bringing this throwback track DLC to us. I mean, it's just a trip down memory lane, but in the new MX vs. ATV game. So it's so cool. It's so freaking awesome. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel like they did these tracks. If you played MX vs. ATV Alive a ton, how do you feel like they built them? What do you think about the nighttime? And did you guess the Easter egg? What do you think about the DLC in general? In my opinion, it is fantastic. I'm so excited for Capital City and Savannah up next in 2 weeks from now. And then, obviously, the 3 reflex tracks I'm very excited for. So, let me know in the comments what you guys think. But you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the support on the channel lately. It really does mean a lot. And until the next video, take it easy.